You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the April 26th meeting of the LaPorte County Regional Sewer and Water District Board. You can find information of this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
All right, I think we're all good. We can call the meeting to order. First thing, pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next on the agenda, roll call. Want to call that, Jennifer?
Jen,
Yeah.
do you have a mic?
No.
You take that one.
This one's closer.
Or, yeah, that one.
I'll share.
You got enough for rope?
Yep.
Okay.
John Carr, not here. Mitch Bishop,
Present.
Marcella Kunstig, here. Jerry Jackson,
Here.
Dahlia Zegas, present. Mark Danielson,
Present.
Amanda Laners, here. Okay,
All right, we've got quorum. Approval of minutes. Everyone get a chance to take a look at the minutes?
Just a second, Jerry. Are we, Jennifer, are we doing the screen behind you or just,
No, I thought they did it, but they don't do it, so.
okay.
I guess it's just us.
Okay, and so you'll be able to tell us who's talking and that kind of stuff. Okay, excuse me,
No problem, no problem.
Mr. Chairman.
Temporary.
Yeah, temporary
Yes,
chairman.
Temporary chair. All right, has everyone had a chance to take a look at the minutes? Any comments, any corrections? I didn't see anything.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
We got a motion and a second, although, well, we need to take a roll call, don't we? No? Okay, I wasn't sure how the online rules were. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, minutes approved. We'll do public comments. Anyone wishing to speak can come up. You got three minutes. Do I have anyone, public wants to come up, talk? State your name and your address, please.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. My name is Joyce Forbes, 7661 East Lake Park Avenue, out on Hudson Lake. I am so excited that we are finally moving forward. There are two board members here that remember way back in 2013 when we started this project, and we faithfully have followed along, experienced some setbacks, and now it looks like we finally will be able to tell our residents that it is coming. I sent out an email last week in regard to the public hearing next week. And the comments back were very encouraging. Thank you for keeping the faith, that kind of thing. So I do appreciate all of your efforts. I applaud you. You know that there are going to be dissenters who are going to be very vocal, but that does not represent who the majority of the people are, who know that even though this is a costly project, because when we started building our own wastewater treatment plant, that first proposal was 15 million, and now we're way past there. So it's something that needs to be done, and we need to remain and stay the course for the health and welfare of the entire area. The county as a whole will benefit from enhancing that whole area there. So I just want to thank you and let you know that I am so excited that this is finally going to happen. It brings tears to my eyes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Looking forward to seeing everyone there.
Any other public comments? Anyone online? No?
Anyone online? Public comments?
All right, we'll close public comment. Steve, do you have a report for finance?
Yeah, starting with the claims for your consideration for this month, we have claims totaling, and there is a revised sheet. I revised it after the packets went out.
This one here?
Yeah, the one I placed up there today.
Okay.
So there were a few, I wanted to make sure we get them on there.
Something like
Some of the
this.
Indiana, Michigan power bills come last minute here before the meeting, so I added those on.
Here. Is it?
Totaling $36,603.07.
Okay, here it is. Here it is.
Mine? Yeah.
You're talking about this one right here, right?
Yeah.
Marcy?
The
This-
36,603, yep.
Yep, yep. Right there.
All right. We've got claims presented.
Motion to approve.
Motion to
Second.
approve.
All right, claims presented. Got a motion to approve in a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, claims are approved. The total again was $36,603.07.
Moving on to financials for the month of March, we have toll road receipts for the month, 55,000. Disbursements, 17,000. A little bit of interest income, net increase of 38,000 and change. Ending cash balance, March 31st, $442,027.36. On the second page is the breakdown of those cash balances. $190,876.90 is in the O&M fund at Horizon Bank in the checking account. And the remaining balance of $251,150.46 is at the Hoosier Fund. And at some point, we probably ought to consider moving more of that from Horizon Bank over to the Hoosier Fund. So I'm not sure at what point that is, but I think we're getting close to moving maybe another 100,000 over. And hopefully, interest rates start to rise and the returns on that start to rise, but haven't
That's a
quite
mixed
seen that
blessing.
yet. Huh?
That's a mixed blessing.
Yeah, exactly. The maybe a small silver lining in interest rates rising.
So is that something that we need to consider right now, or?
I think we can talk about it next month. I just wanted to put
Okay.
that seed in your mind. And I honestly, I don't even remember who. I think maybe it's Mitch is the one that is authorized to make those transfers still. That we did
Yeah.
one
What was the original? Was it
250.
Okay, so we made.
Yeah, 250,000. So we've earned in a little over a year, $1,150 in interest, something like that. Was it last year or the year before?
It was like 2 years, I think.
2 years ago. So in 2 years.
You don't make a lot of interest on these safe funds.
No, it's like 0.3%, which is better than, I mean, the bank was paying like 0.01, so.
Well, when inflation is 7 or 8,
Right, exactly. Well, hopefully it catches up a little bit.
Something is better than nothing.
absolutely. It's nice to have money to actually discuss, and if we had an emergency, we could do something with. We're kind of new to that position.
Right. And that, just to continue on with that thought, we are paying the Hudson Saugony, we are fronting that out of the toll road funds. I'm keeping track of that. So when we close on the loan, those will be reimbursed back to toll road out of the funding source. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
yeah. Moving on to Rolling Prairie, receipts for the month 17,000, disbursements of 8,000, plus a loan principal paying to the county of $1,830. Net cash increase $7,300. Ending cash balance $46,550.14. I did make, looking at the second page there, I did make some transfers. Like we discussed last time, I'm going to start making transfers into the debt service reserve and the bond and interest account. So you see those toward the bottom of the second page. Ending balances as of 3/31 in the O&M fund, $41,308.47. Debt service reserve, $991.67. And the bond and interest account, $4,250 even.
Someone needs to be muted.
Well, in 1830, that's the payback The 1830 on there, that's the payback to the county, right, for
Correct.
one?
Yeah, and there's another check. You saw that in the claims this month. That'll be on there every month.
Any other comments on financials?
No.
All right, thank you, Steve. Is Chris online to give Asbury's report? Wasn't sure. Yeah, you're up.
Why can't we hear him though?
Hold on,
You put the microphone on.
can't hear him.
can you? Okay. She's having a hard time. We have to put the mic
Put the
nearby
mic by. Where's your speaker?
or turn up the speaker and then see if we can get something. Sorry.
It's really bad.
Okay, go ahead, Chris.
As I was saying, the plant has operated well the last month. The only issue we have now is maybe maintenance to both the grounds and the buildings.
Okay.
I already talked to the maintenance guy, and he's gonna be coming out and starting.
So when you
Yeah,
mean the
but it's
maintenance
lawn.
guy, what do you mean?
The lawn.
Okay.
And I don't recall, what have we got going? We had some
Mid-heads.
frequency of mowing, or are they just coming out as needed? What?
Every
As
two,
needed.
yeah,
He's
2 to 3
gonna,
weeks.
get started and get it taken care of, to get it under control. Not as bad, obviously, as what it was last year when he had to go out.
So Chris is gonna moderate it and then decide if he has to call him out or not, besides the normal 1 or 2 weeks.
Well, yeah, I think the guy's pretty on it. He goes out pretty much when he needs it. He watches it. I think he lives right there, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Goes out,
He does a
checks on it.
What's with the
Chris,
bill?
did you get a hold of that other company about the roofing and all that, that you?
It's a leaky.
The other contact that I was given, they're primarily just a wildlife removal, and if they wanted a $250 inspection fee, and I don't see the point in that when right now there's no wildlife in there. I think it's mainly just doing maintenance, closing up the holes in the eaves, cleaning gutters, and repairing the holes that are leaking in the roof.
Okay, so Chris is saying that, just beside the, issue with the birds and everything, that the gutters need to be cleaned. There's, trees, limbs and things all around the building. There's
We gotta get some rest to
leaking.
do all that.
He's thinking that the whole building needs to be looked over, cleaned up, maintained.
Yeah.
Okay, can you speak into the mic?
Jennifer, you-
Jennifer?
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. So,
because she cannot hear you.
okay. You want me to repeat all that, or did you
Yes,
get it?
please.
Okay, so Chris called me the other day, and besides the lawn maintenance that we talked about, and I talked with the guy and getting started, he thinks that needs someone to come out and basically do maintenance over the whole building. There in the eaves, there's dirt, limbs, trees growing out of everything. The leaky roof, and the birds getting in. Just the whole building needs to be maintained better, and just everything sealed up and looked
Okay.
at.
So the progression right now is the maintenance guy is going to go ahead and just trim the grass and do the best he can to just trim up the grass and not do the overall of the trees and the gutters. He's just gonna.
He just does lawn work.
He just does the
Yes.
lawn work.
He did say that he could look at that stuff for us if we wanted him to. If we didn't have anyone. I know, Chris, the previous estimate you got, what all was that for?
That was That was to make sure that birds couldn't get in, closing up the eaves. And really that was about it. And he was going to
What
they
about
were going to guarantee a 5-year
It's all needs to be done. No?
trees
plan
and stuff.
where they wouldn't be able to get in. So
So
that is to address,
how he does it and get a
gutters
roof over there.
and the leaky roof.
Right, and how much was that?
My recommendation would be.
It was like, I can't remember, I think it was $3,600.
Right.
And the $3,600 was to do what?
Basically just close up the eaves, and that was it, and it was guaranteed for 5 years.
Okay, this is on the roof, or just the eaves?
Just the eaves, I
Yeah, we need
believe.
roof repair too, correct?
Yeah, just the eaves.
Just the eaves.
Just the eaves, okay. Well, shouldn't if the maintenance man can go ahead and do most of that, shouldn't we try with him first?
I spoke to Andrew.
Oh, you did?
He-
Okay.
and he called you. I'm aware that he spoke to you as well. But he mentioned trees and branches and limbs and it's like small repairs and cleaning up that need to be done on the property. And he asked if he could do that.
Oh.
Or if we were interested in him doing that.
Okay, I didn't get the feeling he was
Oh,
gung-ho
okay.
to do it.
Oh, wow.
If he
there was
is,
also like
absolutely.
trash cleanup. I guess there's a lot of trash that blew from the toll road plaza into
Uh-huh.
the fence area, and there's
Oh,
there's
he's-
trees, and he said he would do that. I don't
Okay.
know if that's that. I'm not sure if that's in his.
No, it's not in his
contract.
current contract,
Yeah.
but I have no problem.
Why don't you give him a call and see what, give us a,
Yep.
I think he'd be.
give us an estimate of what he's going to do, and at least start that, and then have somebody start calling a roofer, get 2 or 3 prices at the same time that we're doing the cleanup, and then we can go from there.
Okay.
I've had experience, actually, a family home with, wildlife in there, and a good roofer can seal up all openings and things like that, and take care of maybe the other problems too. So I think we need another estimate or another, yeah, thanks.
Okay. I'll look into that. I'll talk with Andrew and then see if I can get some roof estimates.
Okay, but just so I understand, we're going to go ahead and at least clean up the grass and the other items. Jennifer is going to get a rough guess, get an invoice or a estimate from them of what this guy would do for the general cleanup, the trees, the small repairs, and then we move with that, and then we go out and get the estimates for 1, 2, 3 roofers. Is that what I'm hearing?
Sounds good.
ABC roofers too.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Mark. That sounds right.
All right, sounds like we got a plan.
Okay.
It's really important to keep water and wastewater facilities looking good. That sets the whole operation.
And Chris,
Chris, are you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay.
I know mainly that was at the water plant originally where the birds and stuff were, and you want the wastewater building check.
Yeah, the wastewater building, has the same issues. There's a leak where one of the heaters that goes through the roof, the exhaust goes through the roof, is leaking there.
Okay, so both roofs, both buildings.
That needs to be taken care of.
Okay.
What kind of roofs are they, do you know?
And even there's gutters on the awning that covers the waste treatment plant.
That's a metal roof.
And
Metal roof.
those gutters probably
Metal roof, Jerry.
Okay. I'll just plan on meeting Andrew there at some point and doing
Well,
a
what they
checklist and
normally
then,
do is they'll
that'd be great.
put a coating
And
over
then
it, like
seeing
a heavy duty
what it'll
coating, and you
cost.
gotta have somebody
Okay.
that knows what the hell they're doing.
all right, sounds like.
Thanks,
Sounds
Chris.
Thank you.
Jennifer, I can meet you out there and go through the list.
Okay, yeah, that's a good idea. I'll call you after the meeting, we'll set up a time to do that.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris.
All right.
Thanks, Chris.
Is the next item on the agenda you, Jennifer, for billing, collection, and liens, et cetera?
I think so. Nothing really additional compared, or other than what's already in my report, unless you have questions. plugging along.
All right, any questions or comments? All right, Mitch, did you have some comments on the site inspection?
That was a carryover from last meeting. On what we discussed, that it was the one structure
Was gone.
Yeah, and then the other one, it seemed like to be two separate, and we discussed that with the rate ordinance, I believe, at last meeting, and decided that was two different rates and not one,
Okay.
or two different bills. Not
Okay.
one. So I think
Did we establish a procedure for, a property that's served but doesn't have a structure on it? That was one of the discussion items.
What did we determine? I think weren't we still waiting for Mitch to determine?
I think we talked about looking to see how other districts manage that issue.
and that's one of the things we talked about, the ordinance and that, and Ken and I did go and look at a couple things, and I pulled out the ordinances and a couple example ordinances and put it in the packet, and we can look at that. But basically, we determined it's a building but has two different, so it would be still billed two uses, two EDUs, and I will get back with them and tell them that.
Okay.
Because no matter what, if it has two businesses, two uses, they get two bills.
On the other lot, do we know if other districts are charging ready-to-serve fees or
Well, a lot of districts do. They charge if what Ken, I think Ken mentioned, if they tore it down after the project or whatever, then yes, they would get charged a debt service.
and that enables us to keep paying on our debt. That requires a ordinance modification for us to establish that procedure, or can we? That's maybe a Barry question.
Barry?
Is there any other?
Do we? Yes. Do we need an ordinance change to if we're gonna charge an empty lot that they took a house down, a ready-to-serve type fee, so that we can continue to pay on our debt, their share?
Yeah, I think that there would, if you recall, there is some language that talks about demolition of structures, but it really does not specifically talk about rates applicable to what happens after the structure is demolished. So I would think that whether we want to make clearer, and I will say, I didn't have a chance to read all of what Jennifer sent yesterday, but I will say that those rate ordinances from Coons Lake, and I think it was Lakeland, they do probably a better job with their definitions of different types of structures than we do. So I would think we really ought to take this opportunity to, particularly with Ken and Jennifer's input, if we're going to change one thing, let's change whatever we might think needs to be updated at the same time. But I agree, it would be an ordinance change and have to follow those formalities.
Barry, would you agree then that give you some time to take a look at that? Then we'll get the comments from Ken and Jennifer and anyone else, and then at that point, then maybe go to an executive committee, let them look at it, and then bring it back to the board, or is that what you're thinking?
That is what I'm thinking. It's probably a month or two process, I would imagine. And if I recall, it's been a while since we dealt with the last rate change. It's been a few years. But in addition to the normal ordinance process that we as a board have to deal with, there may be some specific formality in terms of notices that the sewer district statute requires. In other words, that makes rate changes a little more formal than just another ordinance. Like, it might have one more layer of formality than, let's say, the ordinance that we passed regarding Zoom meetings. So I want to take a look at that, because that state statute has been updated in the last few years as well. So yes, I think we need to take some time, look at the process and look at the substance. I think when Ken and I and Jennifer kind of have an update, and maybe Jerry's input as well, then I think the next step would be an executive committee, absolutely.
That sounds good.
Good, I agree with the plan, makes sense.
All right, I think we're through that. Phase 2 update, is Dan or Ken got a report?
Yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
Wait, can we stop 1 second?
Said no.
Stop 1 second. We have a guy on here, Brian Gray, Hudson Township trustee. It looks like he has his hand up. Apparently,
Hudson.
he wants to talk now. Missed the public comment.
He missed-
Should go back, I don't know.
We're past,
Put my comments in and my hand up during public comment.
Okay, well, you could just,
in light of the process where we've got here going, it's a little difficult. Let's give him an opportunity to
yeah,
speak.
you can just unmute and start talking. You could,
Okay,
okay,
can you guys hear me?
yeah.
Yes.
Sorta.
Go ahead.
Okay, I just have a few questions with, the sewer board going in and the public meeting that is on May 5th for comment for Hudson Township. I'm just kind of curious why the entire township board hasn't been included in this. I know this is a county level thing, but I like to provide as much information to our residents as I can. And the first I'm hearing of this May 5th meeting and any of this project is in the last week. So is there a place where I can find the information and all of the studies that have been done, so that I can present that to everybody here in the township itself?
There was a link in the notice. If you saw the
And
notice.
that was to what you guys planned on doing, but I'm looking for all the information and studies that led up to this. Did you hear me?
Yeah, just confirming, does the link that we provided have a link to the preliminary engineering report?
I did not see another link on there for the engineering report.
That is the PER. The link is the PER. Yeah.
Okay, so that document should provide all of the information that we know, currently know about the project. And because that is the pre-funding qualifier for the State Revolving Loan Fund and for the USDA funding package. So that should provide everything that we know about the proposed project.
But that's going to go back to the studies that show that the lake is being polluted and that we need the sewer district in order to save our natural resources.
We don't have a study that shows the lake is being polluted.
Okay, so this isn't in response to something being polluted then? This is just in response to trying to help some of the properties that cannot put a septic system in themselves?
Well, no, I guess I wouldn't characterize it that way. I would say that this is a pollution abatement project. It's a septic system elimination project, and it while there is no study that says that the lake is being polluted, we typically don't do that work, and that is not necessarily something that would be included in the district's requirement to advance a project.
I just, since this notice has gone out, my phone's been ringing off the hook because we cannot find any information on why this is necessary and the steps that have led up to this point. Of course, like you guys, we have all answered to people that we represent, and I hate telling them that this is the first I've heard of things and I don't have the right answers for them.
Can you provide us with the township board contacts so that we can include them in future communications?
Well, 2 of them are there, but I will send you the emails of myself and all 3 of us.
All right.
And any information that you can send that I can pass along to the taxpayers would be fantastic.
Did we get his name?
Yeah, I didn't catch your name at the start of this.
My name is Brian Gray.
And
Briangray.
And your address then?
8828 East 700 North, New Carlisle, Indiana 46552.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I'll shoot you guys an email with my information and the board's information, and Just kind of what I think I'm missing out on here.
Very, very good. Appreciate that.
No, thank you guys very much.
All right, thank you. So we were
Dan.
before that. Yeah, we were on
Phase
the
two.
phase 2 update with Dan and Ken.
Yeah, you guys hear me all right?
She's saying it's getting better. Keep the mic.
To start off, just to kind of update on what's going on with phase 2. This week I've got a notice from Woodruff and Sons. They are going to be in town doing some warranty work. I guess there's some spot around town where seating hasn't taken hold. So they're going to touch up a lot of that stuff as they reinstall the shroud on the 8-foot grinder that we discussed that grinder is being a little bit repaired. I would have appreciated that work. They're just in installing the new shroud. Since last month, also the new mixed flush valves have been installed at the 350 East Lift Station. Turns out that Xylem accidentally installed both of them on the same station. And in fact, one was supposed to go on Hatfield and was going 350 East. So they're currently scheduling to come back out to remove one of them and put it in at the Hatfield station.
I can give you an update on. I can give you an update on that. They have been here and they moved it to the Hatfield station, and we went out and did an inspection yesterday, and it's working very well.
Okay, awesome. Jerry did indicate to me that this thing is doing a really good job of busting the mat out. We should have the factory go out there and really push it all anymore.
It'll pay for itself quickly.
Sorry.
He said it's doing a great job and it'll pay for itself.
Okay, awesome. Along with Rolling Prairie Phase 2 project, I have drafted up PER Amendment number 3 for the use of remaining funds in the project. I don't know, Jennifer, did you get that sent out to everybody? I didn't see that in any of the 5 emails that were launched yesterday. If not, I can follow up after this and send this documentation out. I have it. I don't know if you guys have me on the TV in there or not. I'm gonna guess not, because it's quick on it. The computer on Jennifer's desk is what's running this thing. So I would be able to share screen and project it up here, but I'll just give the rundown. What this PER amendment covers is the request for SRF to the use of remaining funds. Our remaining fund balance is approximately $152,000.
How much was that?
152.
Thank you.
What we are requesting for use of remaining funds in this PER are, 1, reimbursement for the installation of those mixed flush valves, which that came out at about $10,000. And also the implementation of a customer connection reimbursement program. And how I've tabulated that out with remaining funds spreadsheet, there are 117 customer connections in the phase 2 service area at $1,000 apiece. That comes out to $117,000, and then $25,000 for the program administration. The costs associated with collecting and filing the permits and coordination with SRF, things like that. Grand total of everything, the mixed flush valves and this customer connection reimbursement plan comes out to $151,326.
Jennifer, what was the 25,000 for?
Administration for basically reviewing all the applications, processing everything with SRF, writing checks.
Okay.
Talking with property owners, all of that.
So we're doing 1,000 per person?
Mm-hmm.
Max.
Max.
Okay. Okay.
Was it done?
Can you repeat like the beginning balance and then the final? Because like I missed the very first one, so sorry.
We have 152 balance, and then we have 10,000 for the mixed flush valve.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have about 117 customers. So we have 1,000 for each of those. So we have 117K. And then we have about 25,000 for administration. Because I will be reviewing it all when it comes in from the property owners to review all the invoices, all their receipts, application, and then we'll be writing them checks to each one of them, and then we gotta and then we'll bring it all to the board for approval, and then because that's the new process we'll be going over, and then all that has to go to SRF.
Okay.
And all the paperwork application has to go to SRF, and then they'll pay the district.
Okay.
Thank you.
How are we making this grant known to the customers?
That's the other thing, we're gonna be doing a letter.
Okay.
To get this new process approved from you guys today.
Okay.
Because before, we were going to get all of it from the customers, send it to SRF. Then when we got the money back, pay the customers. SRF doesn't want it that way. When Ken took it to them, they wanted it, the district pays the customers, then.
Reimburse.
Then.
Reimburse us.
Yes, exactly. So we had to rewrite that. We added the few things on the form about their account must be caught up and paid, current, all that information. So we updated all that. And then if that's all approved this week, I want to get letters in the mail, and I want to get the forms and everything out this week to all the eligible property owners.
Okay.
And on the website.
It's only
So I
open
just
to phase
completely
2
jumped ahead,
customers.
but-
Phase 2 customers only.
Correct.
Yeah.
You're gonna be a busy girl.
Correct.
Yeah, that will be busy. All right.
Like I said, once I'm on the call here, I'll launch an email to the whole board with this stuff in it. But in order to send this in, I will need John Carr to sign off on a cover letter, basically stating that the district accepts the DER amendment, and we will also have to publish a legal notice in the paper notifying the public of the amendment. So I have those 3 items. I don't know, do we need to act on it?
Definitely.
I mean, you guys haven't seen it yet, so.
Can he email it to us?
Yeah.
Or you guys have, okay.
I was wondering, is it in the packet?
It's not, but I thought you emailed it already. Didn't you?
No, I sent it to just you, Jennifer, but it's gonna put it in the packet for everything else.
You're not wrong. That was a few weeks ago, dear.
Oh, could you summarize the change in procedure then real quick? And do we need a board, Barry
that's-
might weigh in, do we need a board
That's
action
what
on
he
this?
just did, when he told you all of this. That's basically what he did.
Those 3 things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the only change from what we had already been discussing in prior board meetings is the fact that now we know the exact dollars that are gonna go to the homeowners, to administration. We know there's gonna be notice, and in terms of the procedure, it sounds to me the only change is that instead of accumulating the grant applications, sending them down for approval, and having the state pay us and then we pay them, we pay the homeowner first, and then the state's going to reimburse us.
Okay.
Which is essentially the process that we used for the construction. So I understand why the state would probably prefer that. But I certainly think regardless, I mean, unless there's something in the written materials, I certainly think the board could have the vote to approve all of the things that Dan presented at today's meeting.
Can't we, Barry, go ahead and just make a motion and decide if we want it or not, and then you, upon review of yourself, then if you're okay with it, then we'll go ahead and go that route?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Do I have a motion then to, well, I'm not sure how to phrase it.
Terms and changes.
Per Dan's recommendation with 1, 2, and 3, and make a motion.
Second.
Is there any discussion, with this would come out of what fund when we're putting this money out front? This comes out of our operating budget?
No.
We're gotta put out the money in front and get reimbursed, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
Toll road account?
probably Steve, Toll Road.
I mean, I think it depends on how fast it comes in. I mean, there's 46,000 in Rolling Prairie now, and how fast you can get reimbursed.
So it may be possible to pay for it out of Rolling Prairie and then get it reimbursed back in the same account.
Did they talk about that at all? How quickly the reimbursement would be?
I mean, they're usually pretty quick, within a few weeks if
Okay.
we do
Oh,
it
okay.
by direct deposit. It's within a few weeks.
Okay.
Just depends. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I don't know. This is obviously a first
Something
time
new.
we've ever done anything like this, so I don't know if they're gonna go through it with a fine tooth comb or not. So we don't really know.
Yeah. I would say this, we can utilize, I would say the Rolling Prairie.
We've got
account
enough funds
and
we
see how
can
it goes, and then,
I mean, I
Okay.
can tell you right now, because I counted, we have 39 hookups. So we don't really have the funds if we've got 42,000 to issue 39,000 right now. So,
we got 39 out of 117.
39 are just that are hooked up.
39 completed connections right now.
Yeah, that should,
There's 117 total.
yeah, so that should cover it.
Yeah.
I have had calls from residents asking about the extended date, so they have heard about it.
Okay. So it's still an open question on where we're gonna write the checks out of?
Yeah.
Do you wanna think about that, or?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to keep it in one source, but at the end of the day, it's not the worst thing in the world if we have to write it out of toll road and reimburse, so we'll work it out.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. We got a motion. Did we have a second then?
Yes, I second.
Okay, we got a motion. Any further discussion?
I just want to make it clear, so, with the motion, Barry's gonna take a look at it, make sure he agrees with it, and have some communication with Steve so we can figure out
Funding.
where we're getting the funding.
Okay.
That's part of the motion.
I think I'm gonna leave the issue of funding exclusively. I'll leave that to Steve. My review will just be to make sure that what Dan is gonna submit
Okay.
is, which I'm sure it will, exactly how he presented it. But the funding, I don't think you have to necessarily approve. I think we just leave that to our financial counsel to figure out.
Okay, so your motion is to approve the changes pending review by our financial consultant and our attorney?
Yeah.
Yes.
Second that.
Okay, all right. I'll take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes. All right, go ahead with that, Jennifer, then.
All right, and the last item I had was a quick little update on the asset management plan for both the sewer and water system. Currently, as I previously updated, the sewer system is totally complete, and SRF told us to just move forward with completing the water one as well using the grant we already have. So, to date, the water system's inventory is complete. Our staff is currently working on wrapping up the technical section of the asset management plan, and we will be forwarding this to Steve sometime in the next month to kind of complete that financial managerial section. So, any questions about that?
Well, I don't have any questions. I just, when we need to kind of work on the operational, how on a day-to-day and when we review it and, kind of get some procedures that we follow so that we keep it up to date, maintained, and use it.
All right, well, that is all I have on phase two.
Thanks.
Next up, we got Hudson Saugony stuff to discuss, right?
Yeah, next item on the agenda is the PER with Hudson and Saugony. The meeting date,
May 5th.
public meeting date is May 5th.
Where's that at?
Yeah, where is what's the date and time for the meeting?
Wait, let me see.
Or
I've got it.
location and time,
right
rather.
here.
It's here at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, it is 6 p.m. Central, Thursday, May 5th.
6
And
p.m.
it is being held at Meeting Room 3 at the county complex.
Okay.
Okay,
And no quorum.
yeah.
I'll be out of town on vacation, so I won't contribute to the quorum.
I'll be out of town.
Okay. I can be out of town.
All right, the next item is sewer rate ordinance review. Ken and Jennifer,
I think we kind of already talked a little bit about that.
that's back on the phase 2, our regular sewer, okay.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think Barry already mentioned we'd probably just go ahead and get together, put something together, get with the executive committee and
Okay.
Got to give him some time to look at it, and there may be another step that he said that he needs to look at, so got to give council some time.
Well, one other item, Barry, there was a bill passed in Indianapolis that affects connection requirements and fees for connection that we can charge that could potentially affect how Hudson-Saguenay goes. I saw various versions of it, early versions of it. I don't know where it wound up, but I know it passed. So it'd be worth.
Pass.
Yeah.
Yeah?
It'd be worth taking a look at.
Did you hear that, Barry?
1245, yes.
I've not studied the final version, but I do know it passed. I know that Representative Pressel here in LaPorte County was involved in the legislation. In fact, he reached out to me just to kind of I think last week or the prior week, to discuss kind of how, as a practical matter, we deal with requests for exemptions and whatnot. And I said, honestly, they haven't come to my desk. I said, probably the best approach would be to contact Jennifer and Ken. I'm not sure if he actually ended up reaching out to you guys. I think I gave him your contact information, but so Jerry, I'm aware of it, but I've not looked at the final version. I did look at a couple prior versions, so I will, though, as I review our rate ordinance.
I can give you a brief description of what was included and how it, and by the way, there's a briefing that we provided to some clients, and then there's a briefing that Carson LP, they're out of Fort Wayne, they do a lot of this kind of work, have also provided that I can share with the trustees. But basically, it is going to complicate things a little bit, and it will have some impact on the project. And where we will have to provide written notification, and we would be anyway, because there are already exemption requirements or allowances in the code prior to this amendment. But the way we typically deal with that is when the project is issued to IDEM for permitting, we would at that very same time issue notice to 100% of the property owners by direct mail that will inform them of their rights to request an exemption and give them a complete understanding of the process of doing so.
Okay.
And the new code includes, or the new amendment includes a couple things that complicate the process, but not anything that really can't be overcome. What we would recommend is that prior to the next project going in for permits, that the waste district assign a committee to work with the local health department as to how that is going to be administered. The property owner has the right to seek an exemption under this amendment if his system, his on-site septic system, is inspected and determined to be not failing. And then they provide some descriptions in the amendment for a septic system that is not failing. There's a couple of conditions that the property owners are gonna have to meet before they can, before they would want to go forward with an inspection to determine that the system is not failing, and that would include acquiring any and all records of the system, and a qualifying system has to be new at the time of installation, which means a repair or replacement is not going to qualify for an exemption. And then there has to be a qualified inspector, typically someone from the health department, that conducts the review of the on-site condition of the system to determine it's not failing. The three criteria for not failing are that the system can, upon testing, receive 100% of the water or wastewater that can be delivered to the septic system by the home's fixtures. Which means typically when you test the septic system, you go turn everything on and see if the system is flowing water into the draining field or into the absorption field or whatever it might be. In a lot of cases, you'd find that it could be to a dry well or something like that. And then the other indication that the system is failing would be for there to be ponding of wastewater on the surface of the ground in the area of the septic system. And the final one, which is really going to be a little bit tricky, is to determine that the system is not polluting the groundwater or drinking water.
Wow.
And so the district and the health department will have to work together to adopt some guidance on how all three of those things are determined.
Well, that procedure is different from the current procedure.
Record of the permit for the installation and the inspection of the final system before it went into operation, and that is the beginning of the qualifying process. So, but we will all have to work together to outline that in complete detail by the time we get to permitting for the next project that the district chooses to.
Wow.
Share some written information with the board so you can have an understanding of that. And then we will discuss that during the public hearing for the Hudson-Saugony, the proposed Hudson-Saugony project.
So there are some differences to that procedure. They always had to have a qualified inspector before. That part hasn't changed. Qualified inspector can be the health department, or it can be an Indiana Code IOPA certified inspector. Some of the good things that they did define what a septic system is. And a dry well is not a septic system. So anybody on a dry well automatically fails. That is not a septic system. Okay. In the Hudson Lake area and any other lake communities, it would be easier. In some instances, it will be easier to determine whether or not there's contamination to the groundwater by simply doing a soil boring to determine where the seasonal high water table is at. And if the septic system is within that seasonal high water table, then it's a contamination of the water source. So that would be an automatic failure. Running the water into the system, accepting the appropriate amount of water. If it's a 3-bedroom home, this system is designed to take 450 gallons of water a day. So that's running a lot of water at once into those systems to see if they're going to accept that or not. So if those systems are marginal and the inspection is done properly, those marginal systems will probably come back as failures.
Wow.
But yeah, that puts a lot more work on us, and obviously my department will cooperate and assist in any way that we can.
Are there a fair number of qualified inspectors out there that could supplement your department's labor?
We have some registered with us.
Okay. I was just wondering if we got, I don't remember what the home count was, but it was pretty darn high in this project.
Right,
Seemed
and
like
that if they're going to go that route to try and get that exemption.
Yeah.
And the ones that are installed new, there haven't been that many installed new
Okay.
in the last 25 years.
Oh, okay, that's a
Or
while.
less, yeah.
Yeah, okay,
However, that new code reads, so.
okay. If you could
It's a
forward
large-
that summary, Ken, that'd be great.
Big learning curve on
Yeah.
a lot of this.
Yes.
We appreciate your input.
Yeah,
because
thanks.
I learned a lot.
Well, my only question, wouldn't it be, if we accept the funds, wouldn't it be a mandatory hookup? So this would trump these funds and those requirements of a mandatory hookup? Because for instance, if, you know, a house along the way has a good septic and it doesn't fail through the IOPA test, the IOPA testing, or who's certified to test it, then they're exempted. Is that how would that mesh with the funding source then? I guess is my question. Because I know they're mandatory, I thought.
Pretty sure it would be a mandatory project connection.
Yeah, that was exactly my question, because if you take out a loan to build a project, you count on a certain number of customers, and that's how you fund payback, and so.
Exactly, I think that's how that bill came, there was not communication with SRF, how that funding works, because this 1245 allows them to exempt out of it regardless of what SRF says requires in the funding. So even if it requires 100% mandatory hookup, this bill is saying, no, it doesn't.
So there's the conflict between the funding source and
Exactly.
the, okay.
That's why we have Barry.
Love bear.
Yeah, it is, with the, with the projects that we have in process right now, after this amendment was approved, we probably would adjust the approach going forward. So, like in the case of, because we're proposing a dual track funding for a project like Hudson-Saucony Lake, where we're going to try to maximize the benefit of SRF and USDA together. USDA will want us to do that pre-qualification of exemptions as early in the process as possible. And that way, as the project advances and we are starting to put together funding models and rate models and those types of things, we'll know how many customers have applied and have been granted an exemption, and that therefore we'll have a good feel for that. I know that that is going to be probably something that we're going to have to deal with going forward, and we probably won't wait in the future for the project to go to construction permitting. We'll probably want to do that sooner in the process.
It seems difficult procedure because we won't have a loan, we won't have a funding source, and yet we'll be trying to pre-qualify people. It might make it easier.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's not, it definitely, I understand, why it was done and so on and so forth, but it makes it more complicated, in the advanced planning portion, but, it's complicated anyway, so what's one more complication? So it's something that we can absolutely deal with.
And I think, I don't think that our funding sources and the grants are going to trump this statute. I think Ken and I would agree, and Ken has at this point a better working knowledge, but I mean, if they're entitled to the exemption, they're entitled to the exemption. So if we have 1,000 homes, it could be that 200 qualify, and that absolutely makes things a little more complicated.
Definitely.
Yes, and the exemption rules have changed somewhat. It used to be 10 years from the installation of the permitted and verified septic system. Now it's 10 years from the completion of the successful inspection.
Are you hitting?
Wow.
So it's it's just something that it makes it more complicated. But Yeah, you're right, Barry. In this case, even though both funding agencies would want us to have 100% of the homeowners connected, there's no way that that we can promise that any longer. And they're getting that. They understand that. So.
And I have a question. If somebody qualifies for an exemption and then maybe 10 years down the line decides that they can't, update their septic, it fails or whatever, and they want to hook up, is there like a detrimental, like a financial kind of obstacle to them?
That was another thing. If I understand the question right, that is there a financial disadvantage to the customer if they don't connect early with the project? Yes, there is. However, the amendment did make some changes relative to that too. In the past, rural districts and even towns and cities could implement a connection fee that had a ratcheting increase over time to kind of keep pace with the investment of the original customers, if you know what I'm getting at. And so, but any longer in the current amendment, that's not allowed anymore. The connection fee would be the same level as the connection fee for the current customers. And as you know, we don't necessarily in this district and many others that we work for, we don't ask for a connection fee. We try to include 100% of the cost of the project in the rate. So the only connection fee your customers are paying in Rolling Prairie is the cost of the permit and inspection.
One of the versions prohibited any penalties for failure to connect. Did that stay in place?
I'm not sure that survived, Jerry.
Okay.
But I'll take a look at that to confirm. I'm not sure that particular one survived.
Okay.
What typically would happen in a scenario like that is, let's say if you're a customer that did not have a successful exemption request, but you decided that you weren't going to connect to the system initially, or maybe or ever for that matter, the district would still be able to charge the monthly rate for that customer from the day that the system was available to the home, and those costs would accumulate over time. And at some point in time, those unpaid charges could become lien. We don't have a whole lot of juice in the lien any longer either. I mean, the district will never have the ability to any longer to collect on that lien by a sheriff's sale. It would only be through the collection that the county would do on behalf of the taxpayer and the district. So we don't have that in our bailiwick anymore, which that's a couple of years ago that was removed. So but what happens is the customer will continue to see the unpaid charges just accumulate, and it's not a penalty. We're charging them for services that they should be using, as a part of the group, and we can continue to do that until it becomes necessary to file a lien with their property taxes. So, but fortunately, we don't have a high percentage of that happening in any of the districts we work in. It's very low. So,
Thanks.
Thank you, Barry. Or Ken.
Matt.
All right. New business. I'm not sure who's addressing the Renaissance Academy in Michigan City. Is there anyone?
I can do that.
Go ahead.
So I'll make it brief. The bulk of that,
mean, obviously this board has discussed for years our lack of a desire to take over and assume the Renaissance Sewer Project. And also, particularly more recently expressed at prior meetings, I think a policy that we probably don't have as a targeted area to expand into, that portion of what is our geographic district that is in that same area that's already serviced and can easily be serviced by the city of Michigan City. So this agreement is the formal agreement between the school and the sanitary district for the sanitary district to take over the maintenance and operation and management of their system. It also establishes a geographic area that we discussed that's in the immediate neighborhood of that, of the current sewer line, to include those properties that could potentially be tapped into the existing sewer line. And the bulk of the document doesn't concern us. The bulk of the document talks about reimbursement and costs and things that we don't quite candidly care much about. The agreement didn't really have us as a party to it when it was circulated initially amongst myself, Jim Meyer, Anthony Novak at Newby Lewis, who represents the school. They were just looking, quite honestly, for probably a simple cover letter from the board indicating that we're okay with them taking over this system in our jurisdiction. But I thought it a good idea to include us in the agreement for the purpose of having some indemnification language. And we did. Both the sanitary district and the school was amenable to kind of providing some indemnification language that essentially says, since we didn't construct it, we haven't maintained it, that we have no liability with regard to the construction, the maintenance, either in the past, present, or future. And so that language is incorporated. The language was real mildly tinkered by Jim Meyer. I have no problem with his edit. Although Anthony Novak, I think, has approved it on behalf of the school in theory, he is still needing to confirm with his client that they're okay with the specific language. I don't think there will be an issue, but I think that to keep this thing moving forward, we certainly could approve, the version we have, subject to any further tinkering that I would be able to review on behalf of the board. Again, and unless they tinkered specifically with the language I put in regarding indemnification, I really don't care about the vast majority of the agreement, which is kind of specific to, the school not wanting to remonstrate if there's an annexation, et cetera, et cetera. But, so I think this certainly is good for us. There's always been this kind of lingering potential liability out there that really predates, I think, any of us who are now on the board. And so to me, it kind of gives closure to that project, takes this off our plate, and just gets rid of maybe a small liability, but it gets rid of a liability that's been kind of lingering now for 7 or 8 years. So I think it's a great idea. I know that Mr. Radke and Jim Meyer are looking for our approval as soon as we can give it. And again, if for some reason the school came back to us with some changes, you could have me review that on your behalf. And if they were so substantive, obviously, I would probably want the executive committee to weigh in. I just don't anticipate that happening. Okay. And that's where we are.
Okay.
So I make a motion according to what Barry, sewer transfer and service agreement, and once he gets the final agreement, he will see if it has, it's to see if it's what is in front of him now, and he may have to take it to the executive committee.
Do you want us to approve the transfer agreement as is, subject to your review?
Yes.
Do you want it to make it, do you want us to sign it now or wait, subject to your review?
I would make it, approve it now, subject to my review, and authorize, I think it's, let me flip through, I think it's authorize John Carr and Jerry Jackson to sign on behalf of the district after my final approval.
Okay, that was your motion?
That was my motion.
Okay.
Second the motion.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Marcy,
All right, we didn't.
thanks for,
You got it, you got it. So we got a May 24th of next meeting, is that correct?
yep.
Same place, same time? All right, do any other business from the board members?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Got a motion to adjourn? Okay.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you.